Martha Jane West.
Thank you, Lord. Good afternoon, everyone. Please stand. Stand. Black National Anthem. By the Union Congress.
Oh, I heard that. I know about that.
At this time, I'd like to introduce someone to the podium. Someone we know very well, the quiet warrior who travels to St. Louis from his job in Tennessee, and who is the chair of the Organization of Black Struggle. Please welcome Al Lumpkin.
Good evening. As chairman of the Organization for Black Struggle, I would like to welcome you to our 12th anniversary celebration event and program, and to enjoy an intelligent discussion on Malcolm X's legacy and Black liberation. Malcolm spoke of many things in preparation for the liberation of oppressed people. First, Malcolm called for a plan of action, such as the OAU and the AAUD Organization of African American Unity and Non-Religious and Non-Sectarian, to organize to unite Afro-Americans for a constructive program toward attainment of human rights. In order to oppose these things, he had opposed police brutality, beating, for example, the beating of Rodney King, Don Jackson, the breakdown of the black family, use of drugs, which is destroying the black community, racism, white world supremacy, exploitation of the woman, the miseducation of people throughout the world, corruption in government institutions such as the SNL, HUD, and the buyouts, takeovers, junk bonds, and unemployment. I am sure of Malcolm's position on the bombing of Grenada, Libya, complete destruction of Panama, Iraq. The black community must resist this madness. This is for attending, thank you for attending our 12th anniversary in support of the black people on the move, and forward still, by any means necessary. I would like to bring to your attention too, just a short while ago, last year of January, when America was screaming and hollering for this country to bomb and destroy Iraq, and compared from last January to this January, the trouble we're in now, labor, lockouts, plant closing, unemployment, and can't feed the people here, homeless on the street, and labor is in bad trouble at this moment. There are also Japanese bashing to blame it on the Japanese, and I would advise the people in here that doesn't understand what's really going on, that it's not that we don't sell the particular items that are called for over in Japan. Other factors of producing things, it's the car industry that they're having trouble with. and you connect the car engine with what Bush has done, go over there and ask him to lower the standards, the restrictions on the inspection of the car. He's asking for the same thing that he opposes us on in the states here about affirmative action. That's the same thing that he's asking the Japanese to do to the cars that they sell over there, lower the standards on the inspection. So don't get into this thing of Japanese bashing, because the United States did this, the car industry did this for themselves. And I want to thank you for participating with, being a part of our organization, this celebration today. Thank you.
Thank you, Al, for those most stimulating words. And he works down the Golden Green, Kentucky, but he commutes to Tennessee National to see the Tennessee State play. And so now, at this time, we will have a culture presentation by Chrysler and Company. Thank you. This next one is called Tricknology. Every problem has an answer, but we have to search and find, get to the root of the problem. It's just about time for us to open our eyes and see what has to be done about our people, because we're not treated equal. But I don't think that that's the real problem at hand. We have to educate ourselves. Then reform the black man, power to the nation, and fall does the white man, Asiatic black man living in the devil land. So much corruption in the land of the free. How could I pledge to a flag when the government forgot about me and the needs of my whole damn race? Little children cry hungry, but they're sending people up in space. Crips and Bloods or the KKK. It's a shame how our children get murdered in the streets every day. What can we say when a mother sells a child to get high in a dope house? You know what I'm talking about. If we want to ever be free, we gotta take it. And if you need some money for food, go out and make it. Stop begging the white man. Stand up and have pride, because America's a beautiful world, offering you a free ride. Liberty and justice for all is what they say. That's just another trick to keep us deaf, dumb, and blind another day. I'm not sleeping. I woke up and now I realize you gotta have knowledge, you see, or fall victim to the devil man and tricknology. I pledge allegiance to the black man, first man of the earth, founders of the nation and guides of the universe. Positive black men take a stand, because it's easy to give up and hard to be a man. When a brother kills a brother, all the white people laugh. But when we try to come together, someone ends up in a body bag. Martin Luther King did a lot of great things, but when they felt he was a threat, R.I.P. is what we see. I go to school every day and try to make good grades, but when they talk about us, they only say we were slaves. I'm not concerned about European history. I want to learn about my people's inventions and discoveries. We're always crying about equal rights, but when it's time to make a change, nobody wants to fight. I thank Allah for the gift that allows me to right the wrongs of Satan, to let my people know it's time to change our ways and get knowledge of self. Go out and get help, because I love all my people, you see, and I hate to see you fall for the devil's tricknology. Thank you. There was the Nation of Islam. So, Brother Jamie, I'm sorry about that. And that was a very good rap. You know, I've been listening to rap. Today, I could understand the words. I hope you parents go out there. Now, don't be down on the rap, because we heard them today.
You know what, Jane? It's from the mouths of babes that we really learn the truth. What really happens is that as adults, we try to smooth over things and make it sound good and try to make it sound better than it really is. But then young folks are the ones who really tell the truth. Let's give another hand to the men. At this time, I'd like to introduce two people at one time. The first one is Sadia, who will give us an overview of this program, and then followed by Sadia, there will be a presentation made by Gaylord Williams, and he has an appeal. Gaylord Williams is the chair for the Legal Defense Fund that has to do with redistricting. And he wants to tell you some of the problems and the issues of redistricting, and he also wants to make an appeal to you. So in that order, Sadia with an overview, and then we will have Gaylord Williams.
Sadia is with the Youth Council. Good evening. How's everybody feeling today? First of all, I would like to welcome everyone to the OBS 12th Anniversary Malcolm X Legacy and Black Liberation. My name, as she said, is Sadia Murphy, and I am the president for the Youth Council for Positive Development. For those of you who know us, and for those of you who don't know us, I would like to give you a little history about our youth group. First of all, we range from the age of 6 to 18 years old. We use our youth creed as a guideline for our daily struggles in life. The youth creed focuses on achieving academic excellence, developing a character within ourselves. And also, the youth group tries to focus on problems facing African Americans as a whole today. Staying in tune is basically what we're about. We want to make sure that we are aware of everything. This past year, all of our graduates of 1991 from the Youth Council for Positive Development have all gone to college. In addition, we started a scholarship fund for our own group, for youth council members only. And so one person in our youth group named Zizi Lester, who went to Clark Atlanta University, she got the scholarship for $500 because she met all the requirements and everything. So we want to congratulate her on that. And each year, we put the name of the scholarship of a special person who does something to uplift Black people, African people. And last year, it was in the name of Kamu Rahatel, the student leader at Umso University of St. Louis, who died recently. So we put it in his name. And our youth group has started a monthly program called Empowerment Series. Here, we invite different well-known guest speakers to come and speak to us on certain topics. Some of our guest speakers include Attorney Irene Smith, Dr. Lee Blanc, Bill Redden, Eric Hayes, Eugene Redmond, Vernon Smith, Peggy Calvin, just to name a few. And some of our topics dealt with being Black in America, young and healthy, how to stay that way, young and unprotected, you and the law, teen sex, fantasy or fatality, when young blacks kill, way before Columbus. And our upcoming empowerment series will feature, in February, will feature Percy Green speaking on putting an act on activism. Each year, certain members of our group go through the rites of passage. This helps us to prepare for the real world and its surroundings. It helps us to take on a lot more responsibilities as young adults. We also have this system called the Cosby Fano, which means Works for Excellence. Here, we are awarded points for certain achievements, such as recruiting new members, quarterly grades, attendance at the youth culture theater rehearsals and meetings, and participating in community projects, among other things. The person with the most points will be rewarded because he or she shows a sign of great leadership. In December, we sponsored College Night at the Garage. While we were there, not only did we just have fun, but we asked college students to donate money for our scholarship fund and to take part in our mentor program.
And we also got them to sign our mailing list so that they can be aware of our upcoming events that we're going to be having. Yes, I know everybody knows that this is the new year. This is 1992. And the Youth Council for Positive Development plans to do a lot more bigger and better things. For starters, we're having a Malcolm X contest in February for middle schools and high school students. So if you all are interested in that, you can sign up for it. And our empowerment series will be featured, as I mentioned earlier, about the Percy Green. We're still having that this February coming up. And also, we have our candy. We aren't selling any M&Ms anymore because we decided that we wanted to get something different. And I know there's a lot of you out there that's like, oh, well, we don't want candy, we don't want this hard kind of candy. But I know a lot of you all have younger children, and some of you might have a sweet tooth every now and then. So if you all want to buy some candy, we have candy. And so that's basically about the candy. But I want you all to know that the Youth Council for Positive Development will recruit. We will keep living up to our youth creed. And if you have any children or know of you who could benefit from our program, please come to the back table after dinner and you can sign them up. We will take action against this violent world. And most of all, we will become better role models for the younger generation growing up today. Once it's all done, like Public Enemy said, it's going to take a nation of millions to hold us back. Thank you.
Thank you for those inspiring remarks. As I stated earlier, my name is Gaylord Williams. I'm an attorney, and I am one of the attorneys representing the African American Voting Rights Legal Defense Fund. Now, for some of you who may not be aware, and may be asleep on another planet, what we are talking about, what we are doing, is very basic to the survival of African Americans in the city of St. Louis. We're talking about a struggle. And as I came in tonight, I was thinking about what I would say to the group. And I was in the back table looking at some of the t-shirts. And I found one that I think depicts exactly what I would like to say. By any means necessary. And what I'm here to tell you, that by any means necessary, we are going to be empowered. Presently, we're in a struggle to get fair and equitable representation on the Board of Aldermen. The board last year passed a bill which basically disenfranchised African Americans. In a city where we represent at least 50% of the population, we have less than half the seats on the Board of Aldermen, and that is a shame. How in a nation can we talk about fairness when dealing with the Japanese, but when we talk about black people, we tell them that the status quo is enough? We are going to take, by any means necessary, the steps to empower black people. Because you must understand, political empowerment and economic empowerment are one and the same. If we are to be economically advanced, we must also be politically active. This lawsuit, this is a copy of the lawsuit that was filed 2 weeks ago. And in this, we're asking the court to redraw the 28 automatic seats so that we get fair and equitable representation. The time, and I'm going to say this, I'm not saying that we should not, I think there's a paper back there from the American, the Sentinel that talks about keeping the dream alive. The time for dreaming is over. We need action. We need plans. We need people who are going to be energized to get out. We need a revitalization of what has got us this far. And I found this t-shirt even more impelling because on the bottom of the t-shirt it says, "You get your freedom by letting your enemy know that you'll do anything to get your freedom. Then you'll get it. Is the only way you will get it." And And we must understand that no one will give us anything. We must take it. And it is not racist to talk about black empowerment. It is racial pride. And for those of you, I want to say the struggle is going on. But if we're talking about our rights, and we spell that R-I-G-H-T-S, we need the M-O-N-E-Y. So for those of you who are willing and wanting to be involved, and this is a community-based organization, the African American Legal Defense Fund. This is not about politicians. I know some of you are leery about politicians. I know some of you are leery about the elite blacks in our society. This is a grassroots organization, formed by grassroots organizations. Churches, civic groups, from all corners of our community are standing up to be counted. So I ask you and I challenge you tonight to also be challenged and to stand up and be heard. And those of you, there is no amount that is too small. But to wage a legal battle takes money. So those of you, I would ask that tonight, or even now if you would, to make those checks, those $5, those $2, those $10, whatever, $20, and make it out to the African American Voting Rights Legal Defense Fund. And if you have to mail it, you mail it to 4968 Mathis Place, St. Louis, 63113. We have our meetings on Saturday at the Salad Bowl at 10:30, and everyone is welcome because this is a community base. We do not want to exclude anyone. We want to include everyone. And I tell you, we will prevail, we will win, and we will achieve. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lumumba. I'm with the Agriculture Theater. Us young people weren't privileged to have been around the time when Malcolm X lived. So we must rely on our elders and relevant written information that was passed on to know and understand about Malcolm X. What we do know is that Malcolm X was a man for all times. So now let's look at some current issues and hear about them, about what our black shiny prince had to say about them.
Black folks are uptight about this redistricting. I was praying that the black politicians wouldn't have enough courage to take this thing to court. The white folks would give me money, told me to stay out of redistricting battle, or else they won't support me for re-election. I don't know. I think I'm about to lay low on this issue.
There was a slave master in that day. He was Tom, the house Negro, to keep the field Negroes in check. The same old slave master today has Negroes who are nothing but modern Uncle Toms, 20th century Uncle Toms, to keep you and me in check, keep us under control, keep us passive and peaceful and non-violent. That's Tom making you non-violent.
Girl, I'm going to the gallery. Chair.
To educate our people into the importance of knowing that when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. And because these Negroes who have been misled, misguided, are breaking their necks to take their money and spend it with the man. The man is becoming richer and richer, and you're becoming poorer and poorer.
Lord, what am I gonna do? I ain't got no food for my babies, cause they cut off my food stamps. The clean gas just done sent me a shut-off notice. Lord, what am I gonna do? Woe is me, woe is me.
And once we see that all these other sources to which we've turned have failed, we stop turning to them and turn to ourselves. We need a self-help program, a do-it-yourself philosophy, a do-it-right now philosophy. It's already too late philosophy. This is what you and I need to get with. And the only way we're going to solve our problems is with a self-help program. Before we can get a self-help program started, we have to have a self-help philosophy.
What a fine, outstanding young man. That's Clarence Thomas. He's the kind of leadership America needs with all the scum of the earth trying to bring this country down. Clarence Thomas will fight for the right of the citizens and protect our democratic principles.
Same token, the time when that same white man, knowing that your eyes are too far open, can send another Negro into the community, get you and me to support him so he can use him to lead us astray. Those days are long gone.
I believe in the Democratic Party. My family are long-time Democrats. We even got a picture of the Kennedy brothers on our living room wall. We don't need these Republicans, and we definitely can't use some third party. We need to make the Democrats more accountable.
The party that you backed controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you, because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
We need an education that reflects our African identity. For too long, African Americans have tried to live by European standards. Our culture has either been destroyed or distorted. Now many black people seeking their own way to truth and life.
So today our people are disillusioned. They've become disenchanted. They've become dissatisfied. And in their frustrations, they want action. You see this young black man, this new generation, asking for the vote ballot or the vote. That old Uncle Tom action is outdated. The young generation don't want to hear anything about the odds are against us. What do we care about odds? Not only does America have a very serious problem, but our people have a very serious problem. America's problem is us. We're her problem. The only reason she has a problem is she doesn't want us here. And every time you look at yourself, be you black, brown, red, or yellow, a so-called Negro, you represent a person who poses such a serious problem for America because you're not wanted. Once you face this as a fact, then you can start plotting a course that will make you appear intelligent instead of unintelligent.
Welcome, brothers and sisters. I am here to introduce the next speaker. It is a rap poem, rap title is the Malcolm X Rap.
Trying to find your way home. You have a beautiful heart, and your plight is like a beautiful song. Love who you are, because you are a special person. You fought for liberation for your people, which takes a strong and positive black man to do. And in case you haven't heard, that man is you.
Malcolm X, the legs, black liberation by any means necessary. Malcolm X, the legs, black liberation by any means necessary.
Was right. You wanted for all your black people to unite. You said, stand up, be strong, be proud. Look at us today. Look at where we are now. You said, stand up, be strong and proud. Look at us today. Look at where we are now. Do you remember? Do you remember the man? Malcolm X, the legs, black liberation by any means necessary. Malcolm X, the legacy, black liberation by any means necessary. So you haven't yet breathed your last breath. Your words are still alive and will always be. For you are a strong and positive image for our African humanity. So as time goes on, you play a very serious part. And to you, Malcolm X, we salute you for who you are.
Black liberation by any means necessary, Malcolm X. The legacy. Black liberation by any means necessary, Malcolm X. The legacy. Black liberation by any means necessary, Malcolm X. The legacy. Black liberation by any means necessary, Malcolm X. The legacy. Black liberation by any means necessary, Malcolm X. The legacy.
Don't you know he was a
Malcolm X. The legacy. Black liberation by any means necessary, Malcolm X. The legacy.
Don't you know he was a Now remember, you can't say the youth are bad, not today. Now I'm going to bring on a young lady who is the co-chairman of the Organization of Black Struggle. I have always respected this young lady, and I guess I would love her more and more after she had me to come up here tonight. This person has done many, many things locally, statewide, and nationally. She's always in the community. So now I will bring you, Jamala Rogers.
Good afternoon. It's almost evening now. I'm going to be real brief in my introduction of our speaker, and that's because he has a lot to say. But what I will tell you, and this is for the sake of the youth as well, is that all the speakers that we bring on the podium for our anniversary each year has made a considerable contribution to the Black liberation struggle. Most of you all have been here each year for that, and you know that to be a fact. So we don't have people up here, whether they have 4 degrees or none, talking to you. The people that we bring before you have made those contributions and those sacrifices. And we bring them here primarily for the youth because we want them to know that regardless of the area that they choose in life to follow, that they can still make a contribution to the building of their community. Brother Chokwe Lumumba has been in this struggle many, many years. In fact, on the way in from the airport, we asked him, did he remember when we came down to Jackson, Mississippi for the political prisoners rally? And we had to all scratch our head and remember when that was. We finally figured out it must have been 72 or 73. And he's going to talk a little bit more about that. But Chokwe is an attorney in law. He has represented many political prisoners, including the Pontiac brothers, the brothers and sisters in the Brinks robbery, the Black Liberation Army, Asada Shakur, all those brothers and sisters he has fought for in the racist courts of this country. He's the president of the new African People's Organization, which is a living example of the Malcolm X philosophy in real life, like a lot of Kingites who walk with King and espouse the dream, but not doing anything to realize that dream. Chokwe is keeping not only Malcolm X's name alive, he's keeping the philosophy and legacy of Malcolm. Without any further ado, I'd like to bring Brother Chokwe Lumumba.
On behalf of the women, men, and children of the New African People's Organization across what we call the empire, you call it the United States, I bring you all warm and revolutionary greetings. To those in the house who may be Muslims, I say Assalamu alaikum. To those who use the Kiswahili political tongue, I say habari gani. And to those of you who use the
contemporary New African or black street rap, I say, yo. I greet you in the way that you find the woman. And on behalf of my organization, on behalf of those of us who struggle in the New African Independence Movement, those who understand that freedom comes only to those who have power. Nobody gives you freedom. You've got to have the power to take your freedom. To those who understand that power only comes from independence, that as long as you are dependent on someone else, you don't have any power, and any power that you have is power which is only borrowed from someone else. So if you're a Clarence Tom-ass, so to speak, and you're dependent upon Bush and Orrin Hatch, you don't have any power other than the power that they let you have. And when they decide to stop letting you have it, then in fact you have no power at all. And for those who understand that independence comes from the land, as Malcolm said, that independence is based on land. If you don't control any land, then you don't have any independence. So we need some land. For those of us who understand that we eat from land, we wear clothes off of land, we have shelter on land, we have health care that comes from land, we have security that comes from land, we have transportation on the land, communication on the land. And even though sometimes we go into the air and leave the land, we always got to land back on the land. And even if we get into a ship, it's got to dock sometime. For those of us who understand that intimate relation of the people to the land, we say, free the land. I want to thank very much so the Organization of Black Struggle for this very humbling opportunity to come before you to speak today. Number one, I want to thank you for the opportunity of coming out here today. I see all these different beautiful brothers and sisters here before me, spanning all different sectors of our community, and I think you should give yourself a round of applause. I particularly want to thank Brother Dawkins and Sister Jamala Rogers and Brother L for the invitation to come here. And see, you know, Jamala, that beautiful sister, where is she at? I snuck off somewhere. But she's a very, you know, beautiful sister, not only on the outside, but on the inside. And you got to be careful, though, because sometimes that cuteness will disarm you, right? Because she's not only beautiful, but she's tough, all right? I remember when I first, well, it wasn't when I first met her, but when I met her in the Black United Front Conference in Chicago. And I was up there speaking, and I talked a little longer than I was supposed to talk. And she was emceeing. So she immediately ran up to the microphone, grabbed the microphone. Some people don't know when to be quiet, right? Some people don't have the right kind of discipline. And everybody in the building started looking at me. Yeah, brother, yeah. So you can rest assured of one thing, when Jamala Rogers invites me to speak, I won't talk too long anymore, all right? But I really want to thank everybody for this golden opportunity to be here. And for the love that I feel in this room. And that's the love which is very, very important to the legacy of Malcolm X. We're here to discuss an extremely important topic. I'll go anywhere, anytime, any place to talk about Malcolm X. Yes, sir. And I will go anywhere to talk about the Black Liberation Movement and the Black liberation that we need. You see that in a few days, February the 21st, we will be commemorating the day that Malcolm died. When May 19th rolls around, we will celebrate his birthday. fact that Malcolm was born nor the fact that he died is what makes Malcolm worth remembering. What makes Malcolm worth remembering is the life that Malcolm lived. His life is the only thing that makes his birth date or his death date important. So you see, you don't just die for the revolution and become important, my younger brothers and sisters. It is only when you live for the revolution that you become important. Yeah. Malcolm left us with what we call a legacy. A legacy, you understand, is our instructions from treasured experiences of the past. It is the precious pearls of wisdom which have been left upon us because of past experiences, past teachings, and past actions of others. Legacies are living histories. There are treasures, but they are not treasures to be buried somewhere. They are not treasures just merely to be worn on our chests or merely to be put on our hats or merely just to represent in our songs. A legacy must be lived. A legacy must be lived in order for the legacy to be meaningful. And so in order to live the legacy, we must know the legacy. And so we bust over in pride when we see our youngsters grabbing for the legacy of Malcolm X. When we see them with the X's on their caps and the Malcolm faces on their shirts. And this doesn't come as any accident. This comes as a very long path of very hard work. You see, 10 or 15 years ago, you wouldn't be here in these kind of numbers to talk about Malcolm X. There was a time when many of us had forgotten Malcolm. There was a time that even though many of our youth never knew Malcolm, there was a time, not a real long time ago, when many of us talked about Malcolm was confused, or Malcolm was a traitor, or all kinds of backwards things. And so it was a brother who's a political prisoner, his name is Chokwe, who said that although our committed organizations, our committed revolutionary organizations, and our nationalist organizations celebrate Malcolm, we have to reestablish and reclaim the legacy of Malcolm X. So in 1978, we called together, over 1,000 people came together in the Audubon Ballroom where Malcolm was murdered, and that's the first political event they had there since he was killed in 1978. More people came to this event than came when Malcolm spoke on the last day that he was killed. And this was 13 years after Malcolm was killed, and we stood there that day and we looked into the bristling faces, and we saw people's energies arise when they heard Malcolm's words, like the words that you just heard a minute ago. And we looked at them and we told the press, we said, 13 years after Malcolm's death, this is a bad day for the United States and white supremacy. This is a bad day for imperialism. This is a bad day for all of those who would do us harm. And so every year, year after year, there was a Malcolm Memorial and a Malcolm birthday. And throughout the streets, we created papers and pictures of Malcolm and put Malcolm in our songs and had rap concerts where little rap groups came and they heard about Malcolm X. And those rap groups now who heard about Malcolm X through those concerts that we had in Harlem are now putting Malcolm throughout this country in the streets. We took Malcolm and we named Lenox Avenue after Malcolm X. And all over the country, the movement caught on, and so now Malcolm is back with us. But the lesson to be learned is that Malcolm is not back here because Spike Lee's movie will bring him back. Remember that. Malcolm is not here, as some has mistakenly said, as some kind of distraction to Minister Farrakhan. And we love the brother. He's a great friend of mine. Malcolm is not here to distract you from Minister Farrakhan. Malcolm is not here because the system has put Malcolm back out. Malcolm is here because you, me, hard work of black people have put Malcolm's image back on the street. And so what is this legacy that Malcolm has left us with? Malcolm left us with a legacy of self-respect, self-defense, and self-determination. Now you see, we've got to be careful that we internalize all three of those concepts. Sometimes when you only internalize part of it, you move around here kind of half-assed, if you know what I mean. You kind of half-baked, kind of mixed up. And the man will work a trick on you, or the system will try to trick you. Like they did with Clarence Thomas, or Thomas as you know him. You got to be careful now because, you know, this is the day that old-fashioned raggedy Uncle Toms won't do. You can't have a regular old-fashioned Uncle Tom come to your community and you and them expect you to follow or to give them any respect. So they got ultra-modern-day supersonic Uncle Tom. This is what they got. They got fancy, slick Uncle Tom that will try to take your strongest points and use your strongest points against you. So what did they say when old Thomas came out? They said, here's a man who ran Malcolm X. This is what they said, right? Yeah. They never asked the boy if he learned anything, right? I mean, I would have liked to have been on that panel. Well, boy, you say you ran Malcolm X. What did you learn, boy? You know what I'm saying? But he said he believed in self-help. He believed in self-help. Now, this is a term which we have internalized or we have articulated since day one. This is Malcolm's term. This is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's term. This is Marcus Garvey's term. And here sits a man up there with George Bush, Orrin Hatch, the same man who sat on the U.S. Court of Appeals for years and sent 20 to 30 of every case of a black man that came before him who he had to rule against. He sent him to prison for years and for years. And this same Negro had the audacity to sit on TV and look you square in the face and say that he was being subjected to a legal lynching. You imagine that. This same man who judged our brothers year after year and sent them away, denying their rights, had the audacity to sit up there and to try to get your sympathy because some of his friends were up there judging him. This same man who calls upon you for self-help demonstrates unequivocally that he doesn't even have any self-respect. You don't respect yourself, brother, if you don't respect the sister right next to you. There can be no self-help without self-respect. There can be no self-help without self-defense, and certainly there can be no self-help without self-determination. In order for you to help yourself, first of all, you got to know how to think for yourself. And any black man who sits up on TV and tells you that this is the greatest nation in the world, you know, number one, that he's one man that don't think for himself. Sits up here in a country where Rodney King is being beat to death out on the West Coast. A country where there's more black men in prison than there are in college. Where there's more black men being murdered on the streets than there are in college. A country which incarcerates more people. Understand what I'm saying now. More people, regardless of what color they are, incarcerates more people than any other country in the world. And they had the nerve to call the Soviet Union the evil empire. Here's a country that incarcerates more black people than Southern Africa. And then has the nerve to say that Southern Africa is wrong because they had apartheid. And then some of you sit around looking star-eyed and confused talking about apartheid. Apartheid, what a terrible system. I've never seen anything like that before. Well, where you been? Apartheid didn't start in Southern Africa. Apartheid started in Boston on the streetcar. And then they took apartheid down south and they called it Jim Crow. That's where it started. The United States is the senior teacher of apartheid. It's the lowest and rotten nation in the world. And Bush and Reagan and the rest of those term of art. Crap, okay. They don't use that. They don't object to what the South Africans were doing because they were objecting to the oppression of black people. They did object to apartheid, but not because it was the instrument of oppression of black people. They objected to apartheid because they knew it was a sloppy way of doing things. Old Reagan went over there and told the other old white boy, you don't really have to treat niggas like that in order to control them. We know. We've been doing it for years, right? The United States government is in the post-apartheid period of colonialism. The United States government is a government which reigns over an empire. You need to stop calling the United States a nation. See, this is what Malcolm was talking about. So you got to listen to Malcolm carefully, not just to what you want to hear. What did Malcolm say? He said that, look, everybody was running around talking about whether they were a Democrat or a Republican and who, you know, which Democrat they were going to vote for. There's a whole lot of cheerleaders around. Cheerleaders for one white man and cheerleaders for another white man, okay? Malcolm was a real leader, and what he said, look, I'm neither a Democrat, a Republican. In fact, I'm not even an American. This is what he said. He says, I'm one of the 22 million victims of America. Now, talk like that scares you. I know it scares you. Used to scare me until I understood it. Because, I mean, it's just like when you found out there wasn't no Santa Claus. You know how you feel. But Malcolm meant that. What is he saying when he says, I'm not an American? He's not saying that you don't deserve part of America. Don't get him wrong. Robbed you of your labor, robbed you of the land because of your alliances with the Native American that you rightfully had due to, and robbed you from your heritage in Africa. That does not mean that you are now an American. What part of being an American do you want to celebrate? Tell me. And don't tell me to dream. I mean, we don't have no use for no dreams. I mean, a dream is important in that it creates a vision. Martin Luther King was a valuable articulator of a vision of humanity which ultimately must be realized. But you understand that if you go into this struggle with only a dream, then you're not only half-armed, but you're half-dressed. In order to reach a vision, you must have a plan of action. You must understand the political realities of today. And in real terms, no little white kids walking with black kids across some muddy Georgia field is going to really get us the freedom that we need. Yes, sir. The freedom that we need is going to come from concrete, down-to-earth, revolutionary struggle. This is what it's coming from. It's going to come from organizations like the Organization of Black Struggle bringing you out to this bank. You going home and getting in your community. You talking to the people next door. You taking the videos of these programs. Having social events. Showing them at your social events. Talking to the people about them. Talking to the kids on the block. It's going to come for us taking control over our own communities again. This is what it's going to come from. We need to stop crying about our kids. Whose kids are they anyway? You know what I mean? This is insane. We walk around and call on police to come in and handle our own children. We've got to stop doing this. We've become spoiled. We call on the white man to do everything. Sir. It's time to give that up. We call on, you are out of your mind to call on the police to come in to solve crime. The police are part of one of the worst criminal organizations in the history of man. Now look, I'm a lawyer and I'm telling you what I know, okay? You call on police to come in to stop drugs that sometimes selling drugs themselves. And if they're not selling drugs, their bosses are selling drugs. In Jackson, Mississippi, we go down some streets, we see the drug dealer talking to the police for 1 hour at a time. We come up and look at them and they look at us like we're not supposed to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like we messing up some kind of business deal they got going on. And you see it yourself. Right out in broad daylight, streets. We got to start when our babies are babies, and we got to train our babies and condition our babies and educate our babies so our babies will be able to do the right thing. We also have to understand, in respecting ourselves and struggling for self-determination, that the fact that drugs are being stolen on our street is no accident. You have to ask yourself, you have to ask yourself hard questions. Well, look, when the heroin came in the 1960s, where was the United States? The United States was over in Vietnam, over in Cambodia and Laos, hooked up with the poppy growers and the heroin growers over there in those countries. And so what do we get in here? We get heroin from the same low-down sources that brought us the cocaine. Same sponsors, same promoters. O'Reilly North and the boys, I'm telling you. The so-called shadow government over there selling heroin in order to support the war effort, and they sold it to us in the streets over here. And sold it to some of their own soldiers with their foolish self, and that's one of the reasons why they lost the war. Right? And so they come over here, and then during the recent conflict down there with Nicaragua, what do you get? You get cocaine. Where was the United States? Down in Costa Rica and Honduras, where they produce the cocaine. Now, how is it wherever they go, whatever's there that's bad wind up right here where you are? You know what I'm saying? Sooner or later, you're going to figure it out. If they go somewhere else tomorrow and come up with something worse, you'll have it the next day. You can believe that. This is the reality. Because they're using drugs in the old way that the English did against the Chinese. Back in the war with the Chinese, the so-called Boxer Rebellion. The Chinese went upheaval. They were in rebellion, just like you were in the 60s. Don't look at what's happening in Southern Africa with our people rising up and marvel. Celebrate, but don't marvel. Don't look at the Intifada over there in Palestine and marvel. Celebrate, but don't marvel. Because those brothers and sisters are doing the same thing that you did. This is not something you can't do. We were rising up in the 60s. We were closing stores down, closing buses down, closing trains down. We had shook the government up. The FBI was in a panic. I tell you, they were in a panic. All you have to do is read the secret FBI memorandums and they say so. In their own memorandums, they say the Black Panthers are winning the propaganda warfare. They were only selling 250,000 papers a week. You had the New York Times, the Detroit News, whatever that little sorry paper is y'all got here, all of them. All of them. All of them. Selling papers every day. Every day. Yet they had to admit that because of the way the Panthers were telling the truth and drawing the attention of the people, the Panthers were winning the propaganda warfare. So the government got shook up. And they began to bring drugs in order to frustrate our rebellion and our revolution. And some of you now who didn't support the Panthers, and you know you were wrong. You know you were wrong. Didn't support the other organizations when they were on the street. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything they said. Because that's not how revolutions are fought. That's not how revolutions are won. You have different organizations with different ideas. It is not the purpose of revolution to bury someone's ideas. It is the purpose of revolution to put ideas in the rain so that they can compete with each other, so they can be educated from each other, and so that the best of those ideas will rise to the top. That's what revolution is. But we must support the revolutionary process. And some of us didn't support the Panthers. I'm only reminding you of this because I don't want you to make the same mistake again. And the reason you're here tonight is because you don't intend to make the mistake again. You're here. And now the government's getting nervous again, I'm telling you. You're here. I just came from the University of Michigan where I spoke on Martin Luther King Day. The classrooms and the auditoriums were packed. They were literally packed, overflowing. The government is getting nervous, I'm telling you. No matter where you go, you just evoke Malcolm X's name. And the room fills up. You put it in a rap tune and it sells the record itself. Which sometimes is not good. But in any event, Malcolm and King and our heroes of the past are all coming back in order to help give us the examples which are necessary to organize our struggle. And the government's getting nervous. So what you have to understand is the next thing that Malcolm talked about. He talked about self-defense. But before I move on to that, let me just say a couple other things about self-respect. Remember, in order to respect ourselves, we must have accurate knowledge of ourselves. And so self-respect does not begin with today. Self-respect is an accumulated process. And you cannot ignore where you came from and what you have historically done and refuse or fail to teach that to your children and expect your children to respect themselves. We must understand, like Malcolm so clearly pointed out, you cannot love the tree if you hate the roots that created the tree. It is absolutely necessary, like the Black United Front says, that in our schools we must go down fighting for an African-centered education system. How can you possibly do any less? How can you possibly send your children to schools where they learn that slave owners were their heroes? George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, and ask the children why they don't respect themselves. How can you possibly let your children continue to look at ultra-modern-day versions of Tarzan, Garth Vader Roebuck, and all these? He's a light-skinned Roebuck, and all the bad Roebucks are dark-skinned Roebucks. You know what I mean? How can you possibly begin to continue to do this and expect our children to come out with anything except a warped identity? If you go down fighting for anything, it ought to be the education in our children's schools. And if we fight together, none of us will go down. We'll rise up and we'll win the struggle. Self-respect also means that we must have a sense of purpose and direction. You cannot teach a child to respect himself if the only future you can show him is a job at McDonald's or Burger King. Our children might not be real good in math, but they can figure out that they can sell drugs on the corner for one day and make a whole lot more money than they can selling a Burger King down the street. So it means that you've got to change the equation. Some of them got to work at those Burger Kings and McDonald's jobs, and they got to get off those corners, but only if you can show them a future and a direction. If you don't have no direction to show to you, then you get what you deserve. You understand what I'm saying? We've got to show the youth a direction. And that brings us to the other point, self-defense. The government is upset. And so crime is not going to decrease, it's going to increase. Since the 60s, the population in prisons have literally quadrupled. In other words, there's 4 to 5 times as many people in prison than it was in the 1960s. There's over 50% of the prison population is black. In states where the population is over 10 to 15% black, then in those states the population in the prison is almost 80 and 90% black. They are still building more prisons. And amazingly, they have some of your neighbors, some of your mothers, some of your sisters, and some of your brothers asking them to do it. Not because they're mean-spirited people, but because they don't understand. Look, let me tell you, it's not even a question of argument or discussion. A prison will not solve your crime problem. All you have to do is to go there. All that happens in prisons is that people who have criminal tendencies become criminal experts. This is what happens in prison. They put people in artificial, insane environments about a woman. What kind of rehabilitation is that? There are places where they make bad people worse. And unfortunately, the prisons are still places where hundreds of political prisoners, people who are in jail for nothing because the content of their beliefs are still there. And so what that means, my brothers and sisters, is that prisons won't work. The death penalty doesn't work. I don't even take a position theoretically on the death penalty, whether it's good in a society or not. I haven't even got to that point yet. You build me the society that's worth talking about, and then I'll make the decision. I can say for sure this is not the society for it. All you have to do is look at who they're executing. They don't execute anybody for killing you. They don't execute anybody for raping your mother or for killing your kids. They execute people mostly for killing police officers. Right. They execute people mostly for killing prison guards. They execute people for killing mostly racist crackers who create the tension which cause themselves to die. This is who they mostly execute. Every now and then some mass murderer will get executed, and they'll put it on TV just to fool you to think that that's what the death penalty is all about. All you have to do is read it. The death penalties themselves, in more instances than not, they have more provisions against killing law enforcement officers than anything else. So we must look beyond that. We need to defend our own communities. We need to, first of all, think straight. Some of us are dangerous to ourselves because we don't think straight. Whenever you have an individual that doesn't think straight, he's not only dangerous to other people, he's dangerous to himself. So we have to concentrate on thinking straight. I'm not really for abolishing, I'm for abolishing guns, all of them. And when the government gives his up, I'll give mine up. See what I'm saying? But as long as those guys who drop millions of dollars worth, you know I'm going to finish on time this time. They drop millions of dollars worth of bomb on people, still got their guns, then I think that we have to keep ours, but we have to think right. We have to, first of all, we need to know how to use them, how to secure them, how to safeguard them. You're irresponsible. This is why kids get guns. You need to be responsible, and if you're irresponsible, it doesn't make any difference whether it's a gun or a knife or a toothpick. Somebody will use it in the wrong way. They'll burn the house down. So we have to take on the responsibility. We have to work with each other. Men have to help women, and women have to help men, and we all have to deal with our children. We've got to, sometimes we got to take a couple hours back from the job. You ain't making no money anyway. Jobs have been orchestrated in order to take us away from our families. And that's one of the problems. Self-determination. What self-determination means is that we have to build a future for ourselves. And we can leave no holds barred. It means in communities, like Malcolm said, when we can elect officials, we should elect them. We should elect them. You should cultivate them, you should put him out there, and you should elect them. Most people you put in office and then they later on don't do what you want them to do, and you talk about they changed. They didn't change. They wasn't no good in the first place. This is generally the case. You didn't have any control over them in the first place. You didn't build the organization necessarily to put them out there in the first place. We need to have control over our economic situations. We've got to set up investment clubs, cooperatives, and a number of other times. The time is right. You don't have no alternatives nowadays anyway. You're either out of work, about to get put out of work, or making a paycheck, and you're only 2 or 3 paychecks away from homelessness, all of you. This is how you are. This is the situation. And so you might as well, at this time, dedicate ourselves to building something of our own and struggling to take over the institutions, the economic institutions where we work. We must have political self-determination, total political self-determination. In the Black Belt, hundreds of thousands of square miles of land. Sit there with our people in the majority. It's a non-self-governing territory. It's a colony, that's what it is. It's a colony just like any other colonies anywhere else in the world. You walk down the Mississippi River River and you look to the left and to the right, you will see an African culture there. You'll see the blues and the spirituals. You walk down there, you will see that 75% of the labor force is black. 65% of the consumers are black. You will see that all over there are nothing but African people. Yet that is a territory which is controlled by someone else. We need control of it. And I don't have a long time to speak on this, but remember, empires are not sacred no matter what you think. If you don't believe so, go talk to old Gorby and ask him, right? What you have to do is begin to break the empire down. We need a call to action. First of all, to understand the Malcolm legacy, we need a reading and a learning program. Every school, every political group, every institution, every block club needs to have study groups. Read what Malcolm has to say. Don't let nobody tell you what he has to say, because you got to be careful about pictures which depict Malcolm. They might be good and they might be bad. You don't know what Warner Brothers is going to put out. You understand what I mean? And so you need to be ready to discuss it when it comes out. Secondly, in order to deal with this movement, we need to have an action campaign. Every time a problem of police terror comes up, you need to raise some hell about it. Boycott a store. Pick out any old cracker store. Close it down. I'm telling you. Close it down. And there's no right to be in your community anyway. You need to take some economic action. We've got to set up some economic institutions of our own. Put our money together. Invest in those institutions. Stick with those institutions. And do something for the people. If you are not doing anything for the people, if you are not contributing to the revolution, then your store ain't no better than the old cracker store, I'm telling you. And we don't respect it no more than the cracker store. So that means you got to contribute to the revolution. And finally, what we have to do is we have to develop. And we're going to get some of this tonight when these brothers get up here and play this music. But we have to develop what we call a permanent martial culture. An African martial culture. What that means is a culture which cannot be destroyed. Just like there's constant resistance, the culture manifests, constant oppression, the culture manifests constant resistance. Like in Kunta Kinte, when that baby comes out of the womb, we hold him to the sky and we say, this struggle is ours. There is nothing, this is the only thing greater than yourself. When the baby's in the womb, you put your head down there and you whisper to the baby, the land belongs to us. You understand what I'm saying? We must have the land. The land belongs to us. When the baby comes out of the room, we've got to have the land. The land belongs to us. At every turn, every day, you play basketball. You get in the huddle. The chant's got to be, the land belongs to us. You understand what I'm saying? And so when the children will figure out the things that we don't know yet. And what you will see growing here is a manifest people's war. People's war is a war armed with a strong culture, armed with a strong education, and armed with a strong will to survive. If you challenge a people's war, you can never win, because the people will shut down the postal system. They will shut down the subways. They will shut down the buses. They will paralyze the people's or the oppressor's economy so that the oppressor has no arms to fight with. That's what they were afraid of in South Africa. That's what they're afraid of in Israel. That's what they were afraid of here in the 60s. Before they talked some of us out of the revolution, put some of us in jail, killed some of us, and bought some of us out. You understand what I mean? So we've got to get back to some unfinished business. And that's what the Malcolm X legacy is all about. Someone told me the other day at the Martin Luther King Forum, says you got to stop talking like that. Because you see what happens, you're putting rage into these kids. Now 95% of the kids out there shooting each other have never heard me speak. You understand what I'm saying? And not to be disrespectful, they've heard Benjamin Hooks, right? And they've heard some other people. I don't want to hurt your feelings, so I'm not going to name all of them. But they've heard all these people. They've heard these people. They don't hear us. That's the problem. They don't hear the OBS. That's the problem. Right. The Panthers aren't on the corner because the police didn't put them in jail. That's why they're selling drugs on the corner. So it's time for us to take that rage. You can't go to a slave and ask him not to be mad. What's wrong with you? If you're oppressed and you're not mad, something's wrong with you. concert. I'm really in it right now the other night. And I was kind of shook up with some of the language and the rage I saw there, right? But the reality is we just got to reroute it. We got to teach kids that a rap concert is not necessary to drop their pants, right? What is necessary for them to pick up something else, if you know what I mean. Free the language.
I'd like to call up the members of the Leadership Council of the Organization for Black Struggle. Please come to the front. And the way I really got into this, I'll let y'all know, during one of our meetings while we were doing the organizing for this program, we were discussing recognizing the leadership of the OBS so that people would really know who we were. And my statement was, well, if we come up front, I think we should do something. So I was elected to do something. So here I am, so I'll just give you the best shot I can. So I can introduce my left, J. Lloyd Hilton, Jamala Rogers, co-chair, Lavinia Johnson, Richard Dockett, field organizer, Tumaini Mehta, and Al Lunkins to my left is co-chair. I think these folks deserve a round of applause. Thank you. If you fill out these cards,
I'd like to, but I have Mr. Compere is from Haiti.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As the speaker just said, my name is Our Compere, and I am from Haiti. I am taking this opportunity to thank the Organization of Black Struggle for giving me that occasion to talk to you about Haiti. This is about two things who are tightly related. It's about the plight of the Haitian refugees in the base in Guantanamo in Cuba, okay, and the coup d'etat who occasioned this flight of the Haitian from their homeland. We knew that in September 29, 1991, there was a coup d'etat in Haiti against the constitutionally elected government of Reverend Jean-Bertrand Aristide of Haiti. And from then, the military starts slaughtering thousands and thousands of Haitians. And the Haitians have to flee their homeland and to come here in the United States in order to seek political refuge. But this has been not accepted by the US government. According to Bush administration, the Haitian those are economic refugees. The US government is just doing a racist act. What he wants to do, he do not want the Haitian to come here, first of all, to do not increase the black population in the United States. Second, he doesn't want them to come to say how they're slaughtering a lot of people in Haiti with the help of the US government, who is printing in newspaper that is backing and supporting democracy all over the world. This is the reason why I am appealing to your support. The Organization for Black Struggle, the Latin Solidarity Committee, and Concerned Haitian of Friends are organizing a fundraising on February 13 at Mississippi Nights to benefit the Haitian refugees. This is for their legal expense. I will not take all your time. I know they gave me only 3 minutes to talk, okay, but I want to tell you that the struggle of the black Haitian are also the same struggle that we are facing here, the black are facing here in the United States also. Okay, and both of them, okay, are committed, okay, by a tiny Haitian elite with the help of the US government. It's the same type of operation you have in here. I heard them talking about apartheid here in South Africa, apartheid here in the United States. There is also an apartheid also in Haiti, where a tiny minority, they held the wealth of the nation and they keep the masses okay, aside, and put the masses aside. So this is the same struggle we are facing it, Haitians are facing it also. So we are asking for your broad support. If you want a little more detail about it, you can consult the executive committee of the Organization for Black Struggle. They will tell you how to buy the tickets, okay, to go to that event. I am waiting for your participation. Thank you very much.
1, 2, 3, 4. Kozi sikalele Afrika, malupakani sukonowayo, izwa invitanda zoyetu, kozi sikalela, tina nusakowayo, kozi sikalele Afrika, malupakani sukonowayo, izwa invitanda zoyetu, kozi sikalela, tina nusakowayo.
He gives us